All right, let's talk about two of my favorite topics, games and teaching news literacy. My name is Emma Humphries, and I'm the Chief Education Officer for iCivics, the educational nonprofit founded by retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor to provide highly engaging civic education resources to all students. And that is precisely what we do. In partnership with Filament Games, we make online games that teach students about government, politics, history, all things civics. In total, we have 20 terrific online games, 19 of which were created 5 to 8 years ago. We've recently upgraded and ported 4 of them, but iCivics has not published a new game since 2013. Well, I'm happy to announce that iCivics just released a brand new game title. Again, something we haven't done since 2013. Now, this might not be a big deal for you, but for our team, our board, our 170,000 teachers, and upwards of 6 million student users, this is mind-blowingly exciting. Folks were legit stoked about this release. And better yet, it's about one of the most timely of socio-political topics one can imagine right now. News literacy. News literacy, just like civic education, is currently having a moment. A rather big moment. And I'll just leave it at that since I don't have nearly enough time to unpack all of the reasons for which this is the case. But it is the case. And as such, we're presented with myriad challenges, a few of which I've listed here. Indeed, tackling news literacy in the K-12 classroom is an important but nonetheless difficult undertaking for political reasons, for cultural reasons, for technological reasons, which I suppose is precisely why we're doing it. So if you take a look at that last bullet, you can imagine that the first step in designing a news literacy video game is first determining what's already out there. And the good news and the bad news is there's a lot out there. So here's a sampling of what we found. Now, not all of these are games, but for reasons of relevancy, particularly in classroom settings, we explored them as well. Let me be clear. I think this is incredible. And I think it says a lot of great things, both about the human spirit and for the potential for games to solve complex problems. Yes, I look at this slide and I see an increasingly crowded marketplace. But I also see a whole bunch of people, organizations, and businesses saying, you know what? We have a problem. I want to do something about that problem, and I think games are the solution. What a brilliant commentary on the educational games industry. So we surveyed these resources, and here's what we found. They either take a light approach without much instruction, or quite the opposite, they take a more comprehensive approach, requiring investments in time that many teachers are not able to make. So we looked outward, we looked inward, and we settled on this approach. Focus on the student and prioritize relevance, ownership, and engagement. To our delight, we soon realized that this was a rather realistic approach for making a game about news literacy. Because, and prepare yourselves because here comes my big thesis, games and journalism are a lot alike. They're not exactly alike, but they're like approximately equal to one another. And for these 3 rather critical reasons, whether you're engaging in game design or you're engaging in journalism, context matters, it sure helps to have a good story, and we have rules for a reason. So with that, let me work one by one, but quickly through each of these truisms, and let me do so in the context of our brand new game title, whoop whoop, NewsFeed Defenders, iCivics' newest game, the title for which took way more time to devise than I care to admit. So let's break it down and talk about those 3 truisms for journalism and for games, using NewsFeed Defenders as our shining example of the latter. So first things first, context matters. And with a hat tip to artist Eric Wedham, I present 2 sophomoric examples that illustrate the need for establishing clear context when practicing high-quality journalism. Context matters in games too. You need to establish for players what they'll be doing. I should also add here that relevancy matters. So in NewsFeed Defenders, we set the context using relevant topics from which students can choose. Let's select health and wellness and go a little deeper into that context. After choosing and naming your avatar and then making your topic selection, you are welcome to the online community that exists to promote knowledge-sharing discussion around health and wellness. You are given other site details, and then your mission is made clear: to uphold the integrity of that community. And with that, NewsFeed Defenders establishes its context. All of the details aren't there yet. A lot of that comes in the form of in-game tutorial features, but at least you know why you're here and what the point is for playing this game. Second, it helps to have a good story. Now, I wear multiple hats at iCivics, and in addition to leading our curriculum team, I also work as part of our 2-person engagement team. Yes, I'm one of those 2 people. And so every day, I work with our PR consultant to determine compelling storylines in hopes that a reporter will want to cover our work. Now, we can't compete with the story of this amazing little boy and cancer survivor whose entire community rallied to fulfill his wish of being Batman. But iCivics does have some great stories of its own. The same is true for NewsFeed Defenders. Now, what you're seeing on your screen are actually examples of terrible stories, but you need those too when building a game about news literacy. And terrible as they may be, they are nonetheless interesting and catchy, if not also a little clickbaity. But again, that's the point. These bad stories are necessary to contrast the good stories, as we try to help students understand the difference. Third, and lastly, in journalism and in games, we have rules for a reason, and it is wise to follow them. Now, I don't know if you guys remember Rathergate or Memogate. This is when Dan Rather broadcasted a scathing expose on George W. Bush's military service, an expose based on doctored memos. Dan Rather didn't follow the rules. Journalism has rules. And because we built a game about the news, our game has the same rules as journalism. And here they are: accuracy, transparency, impartiality, and trustworthiness. We also added on topic to match the narrative of moderating an online topic-based community. But see, Dan Rather broke the rules. 2 of them at least, maybe more. And as a result, his reputation, and even the reputation of his network, at least for a while, took a major hit. Break those same rules in NewsFeed Defenders, and the same will happen to your store. Now, I think it's worth mentioning that iCivics has rules too. We, along with Filament Games, follow these rules very closely when designing our online games, which is why I believe, despite a crowded market, NewsFeed Defenders will be very popular, especially among teachers. iCivics now has 20 games. Every game is different, but every game follows these rules, and as such, a teacher knows that when she assigns an iCivics game, her students will learn, make connections to the real world, and have fun. So, before I conclude, I think it's also worth noting that, well, you guessed it, games and journalism have notable differences. Differences that make it very wise to use games to teach news literacy skills. Rather than placing students in the free-for-all and endless abyss of online media, be it good or bad, teachers can place students in a safe environment where she can take comfort in knowing that students will have similar learning experiences focused on a desired set of skills and content. That matters for teachers. Yes, we want differentiated learning experiences that allow for student choice and autonomy, but at the end of the class period, we need to know that students learned about whatever it was we set out for them to learn. Games can facilitate that to a large degree. In NewsFeed Defenders, teachers can know that their students are being exposed to and learning about a set of 4 objectives, including, most importantly in my view, the standards or rules of journalism: accuracy, transparency, accountability, and independence. And for me, that's a big deal. iCivics hosted a Twitter party a couple of weeks ago on news literacy and the midterm elections. The final question was, What is one thing you wish every student understood about this topic? What you see on the screen was my answer. Kids need to know this. Their parents need to know it too. If we can't crack this nut, the future of our republic is even more uncertain than it feels right now. So with that, I hope iCivics gives you hope. We certainly are doing our best to crack this nut. Here's just one piece of our answer, NewsFeed Defenders. I hope you'll check it out on iCivics.org today. It sure is a lot of fun. And thank you so much.